I always remember hearing like Blakfish supporting Biffy Clyro on a European tour, and that's when it kind of ended. What actually happened, and why did you want to call it a day?
Well,
We first met in 2008. I looked this up.
did you? Oh wow!
Booked Blakfish with Meet Me in St. Louis. It was the last ever, well, at that time, it was the last ever live performance of Meet Me in St. Louis.
Yeah,
Looking back, what can you remember sort of about your time in Blakfish?
loads of things. I mean, it was a huge chunk of my life. Like, because obviously me and Rich had been best mates since we were 4 years old.
Mm.
So we literally grown up together. You know, for as long as I can remember, he was like part of my life.
Yeah.
So there was that, and then starting secondary school, and then we started the band when we were like kind of about 12, I think.
Mm.
So that was kind of all I ever knew, really. You know, was being with those guys and playing music, and actually now when I look back on it, that is the stuff that actually I remember the most. It's not really the stuff that we did for the last few years where we were doing a lot more. I mean, obviously I remember that stuff, but when I think about, like, if someone says the word Blakfish, what does that make you think of? It just makes me think of being kind of like teenagers, getting drunk, fucking stoned and doing stupid shit and messing around in the park, and then playing gigs as well, but like mainly about like this weird little gang that we kind of created for ourselves, which we carried through. I think that's kind of one thing that we did always have, and I think why we were probably a little bit more insane than a lot of the other people out there, because we were such a tight unit, do you know what I mean, like kind of friendship wise, and it was very much like this bizarre little feral gang mentality of like, it's alright because we're all together and it'll be fine, and if we want it to happen, it will happen because we'll make it happen, do you know what I mean? It was that kind of like exuberance of youth, I guess.
I always find it interesting for people that haven't been in bands. How would you describe that relationship of being in a band? Because it's such a unique.
It's like being in a actual relationship with a partner, but there's multiple people that you have to consider their feelings of, and none of you get to shag each other. Unless in some bands, I'm sure they do.
I'm
sure. In fact, I'm sure lots of bands where that is the case. But in our band we didn't.
Okay. Just for the record. Okay.
Yeah, just unless it was I didn't know about it.
Okay.
It's a very intense relationship, and I think the fact that there's obviously going to be different personalities and people, something that you might do to appease one person of the group is potentially then going to piss another one off, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think managing relationships in that scenario is a very tough thing to do for anybody.
I mean, it's cool if you don't want to answer this, obviously, but I always remember hearing like Blakfish supporting Biffy Clyro on a European tour, and that's when it kind of ended. What actually happened, and why did you want to call it a day?
Well, the way that I recall it, and we've kind of spoken about this since, and actually like it's only in the last kind of year and a half so that the four of us have really kind of reconnected, and we all spend time together now quite a lot, as much as we can, and like it's been very moving. I basically said that I didn't want to do it post all of the stuff that we had already committed to, which was like nearly 2 years worth of stuff, so it wasn't like I was saying this is ending right now. I was saying after, basically I just said I don't want to book anything else in at the end of this. I need to see an end. Not even to like the end of the band, but like, I just need to see that there's going to be a fucking point where I can chill, like, do you know what I mean? Where this chaos kind of can stop for a bit. I wasn't very articulate in the way that I was saying it, I don't think, to be quite honest, because it was quite a horrible thing to try and get out, and it blurted out, and then the others kind of just went, well, if you don't want to do it then fuck it, why are we doing it now, kind of thing. And then I should have at the time gone, well, that's not what I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. But also I was just fucking worn out. We all were, like, to be honest, like, just fully fatigued. We'd done like fucking 300 shows the year before. It's like just madness. And then the days that we weren't playing shows, we were probably in the studio or travelling. Do you know what I mean? So it had been a really intense few years. So I kind of just didn't say anything. I wasn't like, well, actually, I'm saying this. Or I wasn't like, oh yeah, well, let's go. I was just like, didn't really say anything. And then we just drove home.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then it was all very fucking emotional. Not emotional, it was very, everyone was just very angry, I think. And bitter. But I understand now, like, it was it's again, it's similar to a relationship, I suppose. If you're in a relationship and you want the relationship to end but the other person doesn't, like, who are you to be making that decision on behalf of someone else? But it is still your decision to make, I suppose. And I think the difference is, like, at that point in my life, personally, I wouldn't have known how to have handled that in a way that would have been healthy for everyone, probably. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think that's kind of, maybe that sort of lack of communication is a thing from that age, that youth sort of thing? Do you feel like you
I've met lots of people that probably wouldn't be the case for, so I think it's just it's gonna be down to people, their personalities and how they deal with things. And I think that, like, for me personally, I wasn't in a place where I could do that at the time.
You released music as one half of Hymns, but it was some time until your name kind of popped up again, to me at least. You started releasing music as FTSE. Musically, it's the polar opposite, I would say, to Blakfish.
Yeah.
So what led you to make that kind of music?
I'd always had projects that were, like, more kind of, I guess, poppy and songy, that I'd always done, like, ran tandemly with Blakfish, like, forever, really, ever since I was dead young. So that was always something that I had explored and been doing. It was just that Blakfish was the main priority for so long. And then Hymns was more song-based anyway. It wasn't, like, mathy or anything, really. It was pretty just straight up songs, which is definitely where I felt like I wanted to be headed anyway, I think. The reason that stopped was because I just didn't want to have to do shows and do the tour. Not that I didn't have to do shows, I just didn't want to have to tour, and I knew that was the only way to make that work properly, was to tour. And also because Pete was quite a bit younger than me, and, like, he had opportunities come up because he's a fucking incredible drummer to go and play with other people. And, like, I didn't want to do it, but he did, so I was like, of course, mate, just fucking go and do it, go and do it, because I know you want to do it. And it didn't take him long to end up in the same position as me, where it's just like, oh god. But maybe a few years, bless him. But after that, I was focusing on writing, basically, just writing pop, and just not. I didn't really want to do a project for myself. It was more that I just wanted to write for other people, I suppose. And then one of the more poppy, like, solo stuff that I'd been doing, I think it was even when I was in Blakfish, when I'd done this in particular stuff, some management found online and then got in touch with me, so then I was just trying to write pop stuff. Wasn't quite working, like, to get in the room with people is quite difficult. And then I got hold of an MPC off of a mate of mine, Paul, and then that was when it really connected, because I really wanted to be able to do electronic production, but and, like, had been doing it for a long time and trying to do it, but then I got this MPC and suddenly it all clicked, because then I could do electronic stuff, but it was tangible and it was like playing an instrument, so it suddenly made sense to me, coming from someone that could play like guitar, drums, piano, and, like, real instruments, like, being able to actually then tactilely, is that a word? Physically manipulate and play electronic music. So then it all kind of dropped into place, really. And so then I started doing that, and then the early FTSE stuff that I released was really quite sparse and mainly instrumental, like, chopped up stuff, and it was quite atmospheric or whatever. And then I just kind of went with whatever I felt like doing at the time. So it kind of went from that, and then it morphed into this mental fucking, like, we had, like, a whole live band at one point with, like, drums and then loads of samplers, and we weren't running any tracks, so everything was actually being played, and we had like fucking Maud from JCQ was playing like saxophone, and Buckley from Shapes playing bass, and it was all this kind of crazy hybrid of kind of punky electronic stuff with like then me doing this mental social aware kind of fucking hyper political ranting over it, but then with like really big pop choruses, and then that fucking nose bombed, and then I went off and then started making dance music for a bit. Yeah, I don't know really, man. I don't know how or why I ended. It was, but this is all over a really long period of time. We're talking about like 8 years or so here, so it's yeah, I don't know. It just felt like the right thing to do at the time, so that's what I did.
I know so many artists, and there's nothing wrong with it, who kind of, you know, are always creating the same kind of music. I always found it so fascinating. I guess actually with the likes of you, and I guess a good example would be Dev Hynes, Blood Orange, obviously Test Ice Calls, Lightspeed Champion. I always find it so amazing to, you know, to have those avenues. I'm not sure why, but I feel like people are skeptical when musicians kind of switch genres.
Right.
I feel like it's almost hard, like they have to justify the change in terms of switching genre to prove their authenticity almost.
Yeah, right.
So going from like heavy guitar-based music to electronic music, did it feel like you had to kind of justify the change in direction, or was it just you wanting to put the music out, you wanted to...
Not really, because for me personally, I wasn't trying to take anyone with me over there. It wasn't like I had this following that I was expecting to come with me on this other thing. It was, I'd started it anonymously, the FTSE thing, and no one knew. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't, I could see why people might in different situation, but for me, it was just, I just went and did it and didn't really give it a second thought, to be honest. But you're right about the authenticity thing, and it's a weird one, and it's something that I've struggled with, I think, sometimes. Because I have done so many different things, and in my head, it all makes perfect sense. I'm like, yeah, well, that's like what I was doing then, but it's just a bit different, and it's a bit more like that. Or it's never... I suppose, actually, as well, the thing is, I tend to do lots of things at once. For example, the Blakfish stuff, I was doing this pop project called Greatest Hits at the same time, and then like I was doing like folk stuff under another name, and I was doing, do you know what I mean? Like, so I'd always have these little things always going on as different kind of outlets for different parts of what I wanted to do. But I think that actually where I am now is kind of the sum of all of those parts, I suppose. Because also while I was doing the FTSE stuff, I was songwriting, pop writing, and like managed to do quite not many, but I did a few things that were quite successful. Writing for other people and production jobs, like producing records for other artists, like bigger artists, and I still do bits of that now, but not anywhere near what I did, because I kind of got sick of that as well, to be honest, because it's quite a thing. it's a really labour intensive, very small reward bullshit industry. Having to deal with A&Rs from major labels day to day is fucking brutal. Don't get me wrong, there are a few that I love that are still friends with, you know, of mine, but the majority of them are just fucking impossible humans that you don't want to have to fucking, you know, it's just so like industry bullshit. So I kind of fucked all that off as well. But but I feel like where I am now is like kind of some of my youth and growing up, and that mentality of you just fucking go out and you do it and you make it happen. If you've got an idea, no one else is going to do it for you. Don't wait around looking for someone else to try and teach you how to do, like, just fucking get off your ass, get on with it, do it. And that kind of self-belief, I suppose. But then through the pop stuff and the FTSE stuff, it's like the production side of the FTSE stuff is like I'm fully self-sufficient in terms of if I ever need to, if I'm, you know, I record everything myself, I produce it, I can mix it, master it, I can do the whole, you know, all that. And then also the songwriting side of stuff, obviously if you've been writing songs for years, that if you try to write songs, that helps. But then from the other side of that, especially with the FTSE stuff, is how to try and treat it like a business, but not cynically, and like actually for the first time I feel like all of that's kind of dropped really organically. Where I am now is it feels like a sum of all of those parts kind of coalescing into quite an honest representation of who I am at the moment anyway. And I think that's the difference, is you say about like when people change genres they feel like they have to maybe like come up with an explanation. Well, I think the greatest explanation for that is probably that like throughout your life you change, like, and if you don't then surely that's not a, you know, growth is a good thing, and experimenting and trying new things, and I think that that's the same for art. You don't listen. There are some people, I'm sure, that listen to the exact same records and dress exactly the same as they did when they were 13, and more power to them for that. But the majority of us, that's not the case. We can still be like nostalgic about certain things, but there's also going to be stuff you look back and you go, "What the fuck was I wearing that? That record is terrible. What the fuck?" Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's okay to be like that, I think. And I think that then is this going to manifest itself if you're creating art. Like your art's going to come out differently at different stages of your life, and you shouldn't be pigeonholed to just be making one thing. Do you know what I mean? I think, So I think that would be my argument against that.
No, I totally get that, and actually it comes on nicely because when I sort of going through the projects you've done, and kind of, I think because we are the same age, and kind of I can remember where I, you know, obviously putting on Blakfish and Rapture Fest in Reading, and you know, being involved in all those things. To me, like Blakfish seems like the right, this kind of energetic, carefree youth sort of thing. FTSE's like early adulthood, self-confidence, kind of sussing yourself out, and now like ST Manville is kind of, you know, maturity,
settling into middle age.
But it's sort of a settled honesty about it. You kind of, you know, you've had those experiences, and I guess for me, like I've certainly found like my 30s to be a time where, you know, I really don't care about sort of impressing anyone. I know what I like. I know what's important to me.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, no, completely, man. Like I've given up. I don't give a shit. I was talking to my mate about this the other day, and when it was dead sunny, and I was out in like a shirt with loads of holes in it that just like I don't even know why, covered in fucking stains, in some like shorts, just looking a fucking state. And I looked at myself in my reflection, I was like, yes, good on you. I was like, I've literally kind of transcended any like kind of shits given. I'm just like, I really don't care, like, you know, fuck you, kind of.
It's such a beautiful time though, like, there's something about it to be sort of, especially when someone's like trying to egg you on to do something that you know you don't want to do, and you're just like, of course I'm not going to do that, like, I love it.
So I could be there for them as well as you. I'm doing the best I can do. I'm doing my best without you.
I guess coming on to music under ST Manville, you've been on like the Nowhere to Go tour now that we're in shutdown, lockdown.
Yeah.
And playing songs and covers almost every day or every night on Instagram Live. Mm-hmm. With special guests. How has that been? Can you talk about that a little bit?
It's been great. Yeah, it's been really good. I've been able to just hang out with some people that are mates, some people that maybe I haven't seen for a while, but it's been really lovely to kind of like spend that time with. And then like new people that I don't really know, that I just liked musically or whatever, or maybe I'd met really briefly in the past through like writing sessions and things like that. That I, you know, just thought were talented, and be able to bring them on there and to talk about music and lockdown and life and all that stuff. It's been really nice. It gives some routine to the day. Gives, you know, the evenings a bit of a purpose. It has slightly consumed my days when I've been doing it. Some days where I've gone, what the fuck? Like, it comes to like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I go, I have no idea what I'm going to play tonight. I'm like, quick, I better learn a cover. And while I've got a 3-year-old crawling all over me. I've really enjoyed it, and we're going to continue to do them. We're trying to like just scale them slightly each time and reach more and more people. But in terms of like we were saying about being creative, and I've always been someone that's like, I'm not really you know, you have those people that are like, oh, I need to get this new thing so that I can do that, or if I want to do that, I need this. Whereas, especially when it comes to like music production, I suppose in particular, it's like people are like, oh, you need to get these new plugins, or you need to get this bit of gear, and that's never. I've always been like, well, I've got a few bits. Like, how can I make that do what I want? So you kind of learn that inside out. And even when it comes to mix and stuff, I'm like, right, instead of re-recording it, I'll just fucking force it into a shape that feels like what I actually want to get out of it. And I think that that's the same with this scenario. Is like, well, I can't go out and play shows. Like, how can I still connect and engage? You know, how can I find a way around this problem of not being able to do something that I feel like I should be doing? So let's try and come up with like a creative and engaging kind of idea that will get around that problem, I suppose. But problem solving, that's obviously a really long way of saying I enjoy problem solving.
I feel like it's way better to have it that way, have that problem solving and kind of figure stuff out when you don't have everything at your disposal. Because, I don't know, I mean, personally, if I had like a proper setup, like with like, you know, a red camera, I don't know what I'd do. I'd be so confused. I kind of like the fact that this is just like a very basic set up, and I'll be creative to figure it out.
Work. Yeah, no, I think I and actually the streaming thing has been fucking. I think I'm going to come out at the end of this lockdown as like an expert in live streaming. Yeah. Because I've spent so much time like trying to work around and do, you know, audio stuff, and actually another mate of mine, Ryan, he's been doing the same. And we've just been like, so how can we get this to stream on multiple platforms at like high quality with the DSLR and with like high quality audio? And you end up being really creative, and and there's not actually that much information about it out there, you know, because we've all suddenly been forced into this situation, so everyone's kind of just finding their own feet with it. So it is quite interesting. The only annoying thing is with the Instagram Live, you can't really, not easily anyway, do a joint stream with high quality audio. If you're doing it on your own, you can.
I see.
But there's something in the back end of Instagram which means if you do it as a joint stream, you have to use your phone mic. There is a way around it, but it is quite convoluted and it's not easily done. So for other people, it's like quite an ask to be asking them to go and set this insane labyrinth of software and hardware up just for it, you know, for the sake of it.
Has kind of doing stuff on Instagram Live, has it changed your idea of like what live performance can be? Like off the back of this, do you think it will affect anything in terms of live performance to you? Or how you do it?
For me personally, no, I don't think so. It is a very different, because like, I mean, I forget that, you don't forget obviously, but you know, because it's a lot more informal than playing a gig in front of an audience, and especially the type of shows that I tend to play in real life. I actually worry, and I was asking someone yesterday, I was like, am I coming across too brash on these things? Because I forget that like I am quite, I can be quite like just sharp and a bit kind of fuck it, whatever. Which isn't really the tone of the project overall. I mean, it's all just me, but I suppose I'm actually quite considered when I write in text, and when I write songs, I'm considered. But conversationally, I'm not at all really. I kind of just go and talk my way through things, and I was a bit worried that like maybe I was just being too fucking kind of throwaway with everything on the streams. So that is a difference, is that I'm definitely a lot more like that on the streams, because it's just me talking to someone like this, like we are, and it becomes conversational as opposed to being a performance as such. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when you sat in a room with people, it is definitely a lot more of for me personally, it's more of a performance. I know that I'm there for a reason, and I'm talking to them, and I'm kind of, you know, you're telling stories. I talk a lot about the songs and what they were written about at gigs, and kind of why they were written, and you know, little anecdotes about stuff or whatever, which doesn't really seem to translate on a stream because it's so kind of one-sided, I guess.
But then I find that, like, for me personally, as like a music fan, I'd far prefer to have that, like, you know, this is my authentic self at home. I'm in my joggers. You know, like, because there's too much of that, like,
brand protection.
Yeah, just when everything's like, even social media, when, you know, everything is a brand and you can never like show face sort of thing of who you truly are. I think that's what I do love about it, and the potential. I mean, as an example, like I think Chris Martin did one from Coldplay, and like he fucked up some of the songs. I was like, that's what I want to see. I want to see that. I don't want polished all the time. Like,
no, I think you've got a good point there, especially when it's someone like Chris Martin. You kind of like, oh right, he's human as well. That's good.
Yeah. It's not a robot after all.
Yeah.
We'll meet again. Don't know where, I don't know when, but I'm sure we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you.
You've recently released a cover of "For Me Again" by Vera Lynn, featuring some of your friends and family. Can you tell me how that came about?
I've done a few things over the last few months for the BBC here in the East Midlands and Leicester. One of the producers of this, one of the daytime hosts there called Abe Damon, contacted me and said, it was after the Queen did the speech about the key works and the NHS stuff. Said, she obviously alluded to "We'll Meet Again," which is the big wartime song, and said, do you want to, we'd love it if you put a more kind of like your spin on it, a bit more contemporary kind of take on the track. So I was like, yeah, fine.
That's cool.
So then I sat down. Obviously I knew the song, but I didn't know it very well, but I knew, it's one of those kind of, you can't really not have an idea about it, I suppose.
You're supposed to know it.
Yeah, I think that most of us subconsciously do vaguely know it, even if we don't think we do. It was kind of like that for me. I was like, well, I kind of know it. Anyway, I listened to it and I was like, oh, yeah, it's one of those kind of, whatever. And then when I actually sat down and started playing the chords just on the acoustic and singing the melody, I was like, this is fucking lovely. And it was literally, I didn't even have to put any thought. And then I did change the kind of verse part. I just changed it to how I wanted it to sound in my head. But I kept the chorus the same. And I was just like, sounds lovely. So recorded it and it sounded, I was really happy with it. Sent it to them, they were buzzing their tits off about it. And then kind of came up with this idea to, as a project of, like a positive. The message in the song is kind of cliche, but it is very relevant.
On the nose, yeah.
Completely, it really is, and it felt like it was also quite an optimistic message, for the time, the times that we are living in. So it also, we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we kind of got some other artists and friends and family involved in this little project that felt positive, really. So I just reached out to a few of my mates that are artists and a few others that that I kind of have some ties with, and was like, do you want to sing a few lines on this for us? And then just screen recorded loads of FaceTime calls with my friends and family.
That's cool.
Then we cut it all up into a little thing. And
that's nice.
Yeah, and that's that. It was nice. It just felt like a nice touch. And then we were actually, we put it. Once we'd made the video and we thought, it's going to get some exposure through the BBC, etc., we should do something positive with it. So there's a local mental health charity here in Leicester called LAMP that have been amazing support to me and my family for 10 plus years. So we set up a little GoFundMe for them as well.
Oh, amazing.
On the back of it to try and raise a bit of cash for them.
Clouds far away, to the blue skies, chase the dark clouds far away.
Thanks to Sam for such a brilliant in-depth chat, and to you for watching. In next week's episode, I talk with Maxi Gedge from PRS about the great work they're doing through the Key Change initiative, encouraging festivals and music organisations to achieve a 50-50 gender balance by 2022. Click subscribe so you don't miss it, and weekly episodes. Stay safe and stay connected.